Okay, so before we get started, I wanted to, we're going to have a special in February, starting February 2nd. If you remember, there was a stamp set that was in the celebration last year called Hey Chick. And I fell in love with this little chick with the tousled feathers on the top. And they have brought it back because it was so popular. But it also has these wonderful dies, like chicken wire, and there is a hen house, some eggs, and even little pieces of wheat or grain for them to have to eat. And so that's one bundle that you can get. You can, if you already have this from last year, you can just order the dies separately. And then they have, in the January through June catalog, is a Hey Chick, oh no, it's Birthday Chick, with again the tousled head and the little fat chicken. Let me show you, and then some more dies. There's a die for Happy Birthday, some streamers, and then there's one die, let me show you that. Oh, I don't have it. At any rate, it just cuts these little hash marks, these little chicken scratches. Just chicken scratches, that's all it is. There's a bag, of grain bag, feed bag, and there's a fence, and then it cuts out the chickens too. So at any rate, this is available starting February the 2nd. Here's the Hey Birthday Chick, which is available now. But if you wait until the 2nd, you can get it in a bundle with the dies. And then here's the Hey Chick that was from last year. So I wanted to point that out to you. And then we're going to be making this card. I have made this before. I showed it on demonstrator planning place. A lot of people were wondering how to make the stripes. The card that I'm going to make today has narrow stripes. These are wider ones. I made this one early on. I mean, this was the first one I made, but we're going to make it again with narrow stripes. And there are two ways to do it. With this one, these strips are 1/2 inch wide, and this is one of the celebration items. It is Oso Ombre, and it has Bermuda Bay, Blackberry Bliss, Granny Apple Green, Rococo Rose, and Whisper White. And I chose the Bermuda Bay, and they are varied from one side to the other, graded. So first thing you do is you lay down with the tear and tape all the way across the card so that they're just right next to each other. And then you take off the paper backing, and then you lay down your strips of paper with narrow spaces in between. And this holds your designer series paper down, as well as leaving sticky spots in between. And you don't, if you have the full-size die cutting machine, you don't have to trim these off too much, but I'm going to be using the mini, and so I do need to have the width. So I'm going to trim these off along the edge. This doesn't matter because we're going to cut it out anyway with the Stitch So Sweetly die. And you'll notice that I don't have the strips clear over the edge here, and that's okay too, because the die I'm going to use is the largest of the rectangles, and you can see that it doesn't go out as far as the cardstock. This cardstock is 3.5 by 7 or something. Here's what I was trying it last night to practice, but this is what we're going to be using today. So once you have that down, the paper down, maybe I should back up a little bit. The Gilded Flakes leafing comes in this plastic container, and there's no way you can get it back in once you open it up. And I was watching a demonstration on a card from a gal, and she pointed out this has a lot of static electricity because it's so light. She pointed out that if you put it into a plastic container, the static electricity is twice as hard. So what I did was I took a paper pumpkin box. Oop, let me get the right paper pumpkin box. That is not the one I thought I had. Took a paper pumpkin box and I cut along the hinge edge here. And dumped the leafing into there. And see, it doesn't stick too much to the box because this is not plastic. And the other thing that's nice about doing it this way is you can lay your card flat right down into it. Now I'm going to get some on the back here because I do have some adhesive that is uncovered on the back. Anyway, you lay it down, press it down, and then you start rubbing it into the adhesive part and brushing off the excess. Start with your finger. And I have found that if there's an area where the adhesive did not do well, like you didn't get some adhesive on a spot, you can put multi-purpose liquid glue down and it will stick to that. But generally, at least when I use multi-purpose liquid glue, I end up with it on my finger. So you end up with a gold finger, a gilded finger as well. You can play around with that and it'd be kind of fun. Anyway, so you take off the excess. And then I use a sponge dauber, which I actually just keep in here to help remove. And you just brush it off. And it seems like the leafing doesn't stick to the sponge dauber quite as bad as to your fingers. I have tried this technique using the sticky sheet, and the adhesive on those sheets is not strong enough to resist the brushing of getting the gold off. Now, an easier way, it's not using Stampin' Up! Products, so if you want to be strictly Stampin' Up!, you have to use the tear and tape. But if you happen to have a Xyron, run your piece of cardstock through the Xyron, and that'll apply the adhesive all over the back, all over one side of your card, much faster than the tear and tape, and very effective. So that just depends on how much of a purist you are. I would not probably do it if I was teaching the class, because I don't want people to be going and buying a Xyron. They may already have it. If they do, that's fine. But I'd rather they spend their money with me, and since I don't sell Xyrons, it's better to demonstrate what we can sell. So that's how you get those narrow, thin lines on your base. And I don't want to have my die cutting machine have too much adhesive of the gold flaking stick to it, so I'm going to rub off what I can off the back. Ignore this side. Totally ignore that one. Okay, that works pretty well. Have a few flakes floating around. And then all you have to do is just stick the lid back on. And that controls things fairly well. Okay, so the next step is to die cut. And I love this mini die cutting machine because I can put it in under here and it takes up so little space. And I love the Stitch So Sweetly dies. I use them all the time for the layers. But this is tight today. It's a new machine, and I think that the extra adhesive on there is making it good and tight too. What also nice is it folds up so that you can get it out of the way. Okay, I will have to try that again. With that extra thickness from the adhesive and stuff on the back side, it did not cut that well. Almost cut through, but not quite. It's going to take a second pass. Let's hope I can get this lined up right. When you do, okay, pull it out here. Oh, heck. When you get it lined up right, you can kind of feel it clicking in to where it has cut before. I have to stand up. Okay, hopefully that will do it. Live and learn. And it's better not to live and learn on live, but that's what life is like. Well, what a mess. Tell you what, I'm going to go cut this off from the edges, and we won't have the scallops. I'll be right back. Okay, well, that was an experiment. Lesson learned. One other thing I need to get is my cards, my card base. Be right back again. Okay, the card base is Pool Party. Should have had that up and told you about that first. I apologize. And I needed to have scored it to get a nice clean fold. That onto the card base. Up in this corner. Would have been much prettier if I'd had the scalloped edges, but it's still going to be gorgeous. Okay, the next thing is to have a focal point for that, and I'm going to use the Art Gallery. I'm going to use this multi-bouquet stamp. And the reason I had been searching on YouTube for and had discovered the use of the box is because I could not figure out how you could get this duplicate out of that one stamp, how you could get green and the flowers. Now, how did they do that? So I went looking and found out that you stamp it twice. So I'm going to use Mossy Meadow. Actually, I'm not going to do that first. I'm going to use first. For the base, I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo. I love this stamp set. And I only want the flower part, so I can use a shorter piece of cardstock, smaller piece, scrap of cardstock, like that. Okay. And the reason I used the Flirty Flamingo first is because I can stamp off and then use the Mossy Meadow without having to stop and wash the stamp. And that I'll put over here. And then the greeting, I'm going to use, I want a thinking of you card, so I'm going to use this one that says, I'm thinking of you. And I think I'll use the whole stamp. If I didn't want the I'm part, you could easily just put the edge of the thinking of you right like that. Let me show you how that works. Oh, I got a little bit of the I'm into it, but I want the whole thing. So I'm going to just go ahead stamp that. Okay, that takes care of those two. And this is a two-step stamp set. So it also has this little piece here. So this stamps with that, and this one stamps into these. I'll show you how that works. And I'm going to use Calypso Coral for that. And just stamp some there. Just gives a little bit of depth to the stamp. Fits that one better, but it works for all three of them. And we're done with stamping. So that was Flirty Peacock and Calypso Coral. I'll bring die cutting machine back in. I'll try to wipe off some of that gilding. The one thing about using the mini is that you can't have as big a piece of paper because it's about 3.5 inches wide. Okay, and this are the corresponding dies. It has one that says just wanted to say, and then it has the dies for cutting out the bouquets and the greeting. I will be so happy when there is a magnetic platform available for this mini. So see how nicely that cuts it out? We're going to do the same thing with these flowers. Where are my scissors? There. And it does help to have it at an angle when you run it through instead of straight on. Shifted. Yeah, I know. I could use some washi tape. To hold it in place. We'll see how this does. That's pretty good anyway. And then lastly, cut out the greeting. I am thinking of you. And it's time to put the card together. Okay. I'm going to use multi-purpose liquid glue because it's adjustable. So it's going to go like this. And what we do now is to cut off the extra part of here. So you have just the blossoms. And you use a marker and color in the stems with the same colors you used for the other. I just love the Stampin' Blends. Put a few drops multi-purpose liquid glue on. And line them up. Just like that. See? Looks perfect. Use some Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay, where'd you go? It's a good thing you can't see the rest of my table from the camera. It is a mess. But then, creative people are rarely tidy anyway, huh? Right? Does that fit? Yeah, close enough. Put that on there like that. And stick your greeting on. Some mini dimensionals. And there you have it. So that's how you get this beautiful striped background. I see that it's not quite folded straight, so when that happens to you, you can just trim along the edges with your cutter. That's why it's best when you're using the 4 1/4 by 11 inch that you actually score with the Stampin' Trimmer first to compress the fibers that way, because you're folding across the length of the fibers when you do it this direction. So it's not very sexy, it's not as good a job when you're folding it by hand. So at any rate, that is how you make this nice background, and using the Stampin' Emboss or the Gilded Leafing. Now otherwise you use the heat and stick powder, and I would have stamped this little stamp with the heat and stick powder and heat embossed it until it just gets shiny, and then I would have put the stamping or the Gilded Leafing over that too, and that is a very beautiful look. It's like I did for the big one with the big flower, and then you have the gilded traces of it around, and it's designed with just having a little bit of the tracing around. Anyway, there you are. I thank you for watching. If you have any need for any product, my store is Creations by Sue at StampinUp.net. If you have any questions, you can email me at sue@soggystamper.com. And my blog is www.soggystamper.com. And I appreciate you watching. Those of you who have come in after we got started, this will be up on YouTube so that you can watch it and see the whole thing. So thank you and have a wonderful afternoon and weekend. Talk to you next Friday. Bye-bye.